behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Morristown area, I'm pleased to welcome you to this forum. I thank the Madison Community House for assisting in hosting this event. My name is Marie Fornaro, and I'm president of the Morristown Area League, and I'll be your host this evening. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization promoting democracy. Conducting debates like this is one of the ways we encourage informed and active participation in government. Your participation today helps us carry out our mission. We thank you for coming. The general election will be held on Tuesday, November 5th. There also will be constitutional amendment questions on the ballot. There's two questions, one regarding veterans organization and the second one regarding raising the state minimum wage. Information on these amendments can be found on the table in the back and on the League's website. If you would like to participate in any of the League's efforts, we welcome members, both men and women. We also have brochures and membership forms at the entrance tables. We do not allow any audio or video recording of the debate without prior written permission, which we have, and we have someone doing this for us. So at this time, be sure to turn off your cell phones, cameras, and any recording devices. The event is being taped for the League and will appear on the same venues as the Borough Council meetings. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this evening. Mary Lee Schmidt is a member of the League of Women Voters of Somerset County. Per our League practice, she is not from this voting district, and she is a League-trained moderator. Mary Lee will introduce the candidates and outline the format for this evening. Mary Lee?
Good evening. I'm Mary Lee Schmidt. As you all are most probably aware, you are here for a candidate forum for two seats that are open on the Madison Borough Council. These are 3-year terms. The candidates who are running for this office from the Republican Party, Robert Catalanello.
Pretty good.
Not bad.
Pretty good. Thank you.
Patrick Rowe, if you would raise your hand for those who do not know you. From the Democratic Party, Maureen Byrne, and Jeffrey Gertler, who unfortunately has been delayed on the train, and I'll mention that in a moment, how that will be handled. Independent candidate, Sam Cerciello. And the rules for the forum this evening are each of the candidates has 2 minutes for an opening statement. Mr. Gertler is delayed. We will be most probably in the question period at that time. We'll finish whatever the question is and the candidate response, and we will give him a chance to do his opening before the next question is asked. Okay? So opening statements are 2 minutes. Then there are loads of questions that are coming in from the audience. We do encourage you to submit questions. And I will try, if there are many questions on the same topic, I will try to consolidate them into one themed question. Those questions are 1-minute answers, and there is an opportunity for rebuttal up to 1 minute. The closing statements will be 2 minutes, in reverse order of opening statements. Okay? The candidates have picked straws, so to speak. Numbers were picked. And the first candidate to speak will be Sam Cerciello, please.
Well, first of all, I want to just get down and make sure everything possible. I'd like to thank the Women League of Voters, and thank you all for coming. My name is Sam Cerciello. I'm running as an independent candidate for Borough Madison. I lived in Madison all my life. I raised my 2 sons here. Matter of fact, my son Sebastian, thanks for coming, and my lovely wife is here, and my best man and his wife are here. Thanks for coming, guys. But I've been in the construction business all my life. I was the co-owner of the PS Pub for 19 years. I founded and served as the chairman of the Rose City Festival for 14 years. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I like local politics. I have played an active role in all the council meetings. I'm a former council person. I served in 2011 to 2012. When I get elected, I will make sure that our bidding process is right, and we make sure we get the lowest bidder, but more important, the most qualified bidder in the contractor, and to strengthen the construction contract review and the site management. This is what I know. I believe I can bring my construction experience to the table. I believe we're not getting good value for our tax dollars. There's a lack of accountability in many of the town construction projects. We are spending too much money and not getting enough results. I would like to reduce expenses and save money for the taxpayers. I pledged, as an independent candidate, I will work with all the residents, respect all opinions, and get things done. I pledge I will do what is best for all Madison residents, keeping Madison the great town that it is. Thank you.
This is good. Good evening. I'm Rob Catalanello. I've been a Madison resident since 1997. I currently have 3 children in the Madison Public Schools. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and applied math from Villanova University and an MBA in finance and statistics from the Wharton School of Business. I've served on the New York Federal Reserve Foreign Exchange Market Committee for 6 years, and I chaired the Chief Dealers Working Group and the Risk Management Subcommittee. As I reflect on my first term, I'm very proud of what's been accomplished over the past 3 years. First, I want to sincerely thank and recognize all of our town workers, police, fire, DPW, electric, water, office staff, and our crossing guards, as none of this would have been possible without their wonderful commitment. I led the effort to rebuild our infrastructure by establishing the Construction Review Committee. Roads all over town are finally being repaired, and enough money has been encumbered to repair our sewer, force mains, and 4 critical pump stations. I voted for the construction of the award-winning Madison Recreation Center turf field complex, which was completed on time and under budget. I also sponsored the ordinance that founded the Madison Community Gardens. Most importantly, I held the line on taxes. As finance liaison in 2012, I, for the first time, directly engaged the rating agencies during the budget process and put a hard cap on transfers from our surplus account, paving the way for Madison's removal from negative watch by S&P. There is more to do. The people of Madison have sacrificed. I feel now is the time to reduce the burden on our residents with a 10% electric rate cut when our current expensive supply contract expires, and our cost for power will fall by 45 to 50%. I am very confident about our future. I feel I have the skills, experience, and track record to put us on the path to achieve great things. I believe Madison's best days are ahead. I am honored that so many of you have put your trust in me, and I commit to continue to work on your behalf. I respectfully ask for your vote next Tuesday, so I might have the chance to continue the work I began in 2011. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Rowe, please.
First, I'd like to thank everyone who came out tonight to hear us discuss the important issues facing Madison and the League for sponsoring this forum. It's been an honor to serve on the Board of Ed as an elected representative of the community for almost 10 years. In that time, I've served as the finance chair for 9 years, vice president for 8, and chaired the board's and Borough's Shared Services Committee for 2 years. I'm also proud of the many accomplishments the board's had, including the following. First, we maintained our position as one of New Jersey's top school districts at a time when we faced significant financial issues, including the loss of $1.7 million of state aid in 2010. Second, we added much-needed space after voters approved our capital improvement plans in 2005. The project, which spanned work at all 5 school buildings, was brought in on time and on budget. Third, in partnership with the borough, we are close to finalizing the sale of the Green Village Road School. That sale will provide the Board of Ed with critically needed funds for repairs and improvements, and there will also be significant long-term revenue gains for the board and the borough. This has been an extremely successful multi-year partnership to redevelop that site that was last used as a school decades ago. During the campaign, Rob and I have laid out our plans for the future, including some key initiatives we'd like to see to get to work on right after the new council is seated in January. First, we need to fully review the expected gains and surplus from the electric utility when the cost of purchasing of electricity drops by over 40% at the end of May. It should be more than enough to provide a significant electricity rate cut, yet enough to give the borough millions of additional dollars it needs to address a list of long capital projects. Second, we need to update our multi-year capital plan, including projects with priorities and costs. We also need a funding plan to match, but the additional surplus from the utilities should provide the bulk of that funding. Third, we need to continue to enhance and add to our shared service partnerships with the Board of Ed, surrounding communities, and Morris County to help keep property taxes in check. If elected, I will work cooperatively with my colleagues on the council and the borough's administrative team, just as I have at the Board of Ed. I have the experience from my private sector jobs and many years of service on the board to make this happen. I look forward to answering your questions tonight and hope you'll be supporting our campaign when you vote next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Byrne?
Ms. Byrne.
Ms. Byrne, sorry. Sorry.
I have lived in Madison for almost 20 years, longer than I have lived anywhere else. My husband Tom and I have raised a family, and I have volunteered on exceptional committees. We have gotten to know extraordinary people who have challenged us and made our lives richer for the experience. In the years I have lived and worked in Madison, I have seen how Madison prospers when everyone works together, putting the borough's needs ahead of party. I want to be a part of a council that has open meetings and transparent decision-making, develops and sustains strategic partnerships and long-term planning, promotes the public, business, and retail establishments, and brings more people into the process of creating a growing and vibrant community. If elected, my objective would be to ensure our residents and businesses receive the services and community environment that they expect in the most fiscally prudent manner possible. I would do this by pursuing an open and transparent government so that there are no surprises and decisions are reached after a thoughtful and open debate where everyone who wants to be involved and have a voice is guaranteed that access. I would like to continue to improve the borough's finances that we have seen reflected in the last two budgets, ensuring that we don't raid our surpluses anymore. I'd like to enhance and revitalize our downtown and commercial districts while increasing borough ratables by leveraging relationships with the county and state to attract new businesses. And I would support and stand up for open space financing. As a member of the Borough Council, I would work to balance the needs of Madison's many constituencies, striving to represent everyone in a fiscally and socially responsible manner. Hard choices need to be made over the next few years, and how we make these decisions will affect this town and our children for years to come.
Thank you. There are many questions that have been coming in, and that's great. Let's tackle one that seems to have a fair amount of interest, and it's related to the electric rates and the utility. And this one seems to say succinctly, it's been suggested that the electric utility will have large additional surplus starting in June of 2014. Do you agree? And if so, how should the borough use this money? And we start this question with Mr. Catalanello.
Thank you very much. Yes, I do agree. In 2008, the borough locked in a 5-year purchase contract to purchase electric power at very high levels. That contract expires this summer. Starting in 2011, when I joined council, we took the opportunity to opportunistically buy smaller chunks of power at a greatly reduced price. And as such, I believe the price for electricity is going to be anywhere from 40 to 50% lower once the contract expires. We have excellent data on the usage of power in town, so we know how much we use, we know how much we pay for it, and we know how much we sell it for. Therefore, it should be pretty easy to get a very conservative estimate on the incremental surplus. So I think we should begin by rewarding the taxpayers and the residents with 10% rate cut, and the rest of the money should be used to fund our capital needs and not to expand the operating budget.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rowe.
I agree. I talked about it in my opening statement. I've also talked about it for the last year or so. I had done some calculations when someone gave me some data last summer regarding the cost of what the electricity purchases are going to be starting in June 1st of next year, and I realized that there was a significant opportunity coming the borough's way. It's not going to be infinite. It'll be for at least, I believe, 3 years, but I think it's important that before we start the budget process next year, we take a hard look at what the numbers should be. Again, as Mr. Catalanello said, the electric utility is a fairly stable producer of revenue, and I think starting with a rate cut for taxpayers is very important. When the rates doubled in the last 6 or 7 years, our electric rates all went up, and then we really should look to dedicate the rest to the capital budget, because right now we've been starving that area of our budget ever since the rates went up and we had to cut back on the amount of money coming out of the utility for that.
Thank you. Mr. Sciolo, please.
Thank you. I think I got a couple of good ideas with the money that we're going to get from the electric. I don't know if you're aware, a lot of people, but the east wing on the Borough Hall is a mess. They never finished the east side where the police department was. It's all messed up. I believe we should fix it up, and I really believe that the Board of Ed should go there, but that's another story. But it needs to be fixed up. It's a shame that they didn't do it in the beginning. There's still asbestos and all that, but that's what we should do with some of that money. Fix the east side so the whole building is complete. Also, I believe, we've done a lot for the youth in Madison, which is a good thing. I always supported that. But we got to do something for the seniors. Maybe give them a break on their taxes. We own our own electric and water department. Maybe give them a break on it. In other words, so that the old timers can stay in Madison. So those are the two things that I would suggest with some of the money.
I'm not going to argue with everyone. It would be nice to give everyone a 10% discount or even more off of the electric rates. They have been high, and it would be nice to see a rebate. But we have a substantial backlog of capital improvements that need to be made here in town. If anybody has been coming to the Borough Council meetings lately, you would have seen residents from one of the streets in Madison coming and en masse complaining about their street, and their street needs to be repaired. But currently, we don't have a lot of money in surplus or in capital to make those repairs. We've got a $5 million backload of projects. I'd like to see those be funded before we start talking about reducing electric rates.
I agree. I think that, there are a lot of projects, and I think the actual backlog is greater than $5 million. But that's one of the reasons we need to update the capital plan and take a look at the next 3 to 5 years on how much we really need to dedicate to that area. And I think we will find that there is still room to reduce the rates at the same time that we handle the capital projects, as long as we take a multi-year view of this and we do a good analysis fairly quickly. I don't think it should be that difficult to do, but I think we should be able to get it done early in the year so we can make some decisions during the budget year this year.
And I believe we should do the analysis before we start talking about giving people money back on their electric rates.
Thank you. Move on to another question. For some time now, there has been a debate about the value of investing in open space and recreation and historic preservation. What is your opinion regarding these types of investments? And we begin with Mr. Rowe.
I think they're critical. I think Madison being fairly developed, it's important that we identify and hold on to open spaces, and we also develop properly the open spaces that we have purchased. In the past year, we've had to start to work on the remedial work at Bailey Ellard. There's still some work that's going to need to be done at on the 49 acres, which I don't know if it's been scoped out, but the public has not been made aware of those prices. But I think the Open Space Fund, which was established 10 years ago, has helped us tremendously. I also think it's important that we not just purchase open space, but we purchase open space with a purpose. When we purchased the 49 acres, it was with the intent of developing it. And I think the critical thing there was that we got it done fairly quickly, and we were able to put it into use. And now we're working on how we're going to complete the funding of it, but I think I support open space, and I always have.
I am on record supporting open space. I think it's a worthwhile investment. We have managed to take the, I think, $3.54 million we've collected over the last few years and use it along with state and federal grants to leverage almost $17 million, $12 million of purchases and expenses. So it's a good investment. And I think going forward, we have lots of opportunities, including the James Building and other properties that will require open space funding.
Thank you. Mr. Sosio?
Thank you. Yes, I believe in open space funding. Meantime, what I really believe in, though, when we're going to do something, let's have a good plan and let's do it right and make sure all the details are done, like the 49 acres. It was a good idea, but there's a lot of little details that were lacking, and that's what I was trying to say. In other words, the detail is the key, and you have to, when you do something, you have to have a plan and get the right people involved. So I support the open space.
Thank you. If you review my record, you'll see that I voted for the Madison Recreation Center Turf Field Complex. I also sponsored the ordinance that created and funded the Madison Community Gardens. I'm a huge supporter of open space. However, I believe that we might not have always got good value for money. If you look at some of the early purchases, there are serious remediation issues associated with the 49 acres in Bailey Ellard, which are costing us a lot of money, in some cases almost as much as what our share was when we bought the facility. And I firmly believe that going forward for any open space program that we do, we need to have a public-private partnership, and we need to encourage, whenever we can, private fundraising so that we can take the burden off the taxpayer and stretch our open space dollars. I also believe that we need to, thank you. Sorry.
There are a number of questions here regarding needed improvements in Madison's aging infrastructure. How would you fund it, and what would be your plan for improving the aging infrastructure? Would we start, please, with Ms. Byrne?
I think the Borough Council has begun to take those steps with the introduction of the strategic planning initiative at the last two Borough Council meetings. I think we need to identify and prioritize the capital and infrastructure repairs that need to be made. In terms of funding it, basically our source of funding is the surplus from the electric utility, which we've talked about earlier. So we're going to have to look to that, and then look to state and federal funds to also pay for that infrastructure.
Mr. Sosio?
With the, we've been doing a lot of construction around here, new projects and stuff. I just believe that we should get our money's worth. I got dozens and dozens of pictures of projects that were done the last several years, and work wasn't done properly. It could have been done much better. That's where I think we need to form this construction committee, which I've suggested many years ago. And things are changing. Things are getting better because I'm sort of stirring the pot. I'm a troublemaker or whatever, but things are changing, and I want to really start to help change things better. And like I said, I got millions of pictures of work that was done not properly. If anybody wants to see them, and I've been trying to get on the. Matter of fact, Ben, Monday I like to be on this committee that you're trying to do. That's a good idea. I've always been trying to get on a committee, but I'm a troublemaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. When I joined the first thing I did when was elected to the council was I started a water line protection program, which allowed individual homeowners to kind of help with their own infrastructure by buying insurance from the borough, and it provided a source of revenue for the borough outside of taxes. We then went on to form the Construction Review Committee, and for years now and what we did was we changed the methodology. Previous to that, each department would list its most important projects, and they'd kind of fight it out. What we did was we got all department heads together, borough administration and town experts, and we risk-weighted what we thought the most important projects were. And from that came the decision that we needed to fix our sewers and pump stations. And at the end of my first year, we encumbered enough money to fix a lot of the force mains and the 4 critical pump stations. So I think we need to expand on that, the funding has to come from both the electric surplus and the grants, as Ms. Burns said.
I get to go first. No, I get to go first. I haven't gone yet.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Rowe.
Thank you.
That's all right.
There's another thing I've been talking about for the last year. The funding definitely needs to come from the electric utility. About a year ago, Mayor Connolly put together a town hall meeting to talk about infrastructure needs. That was the first time I think I raised the issue of the money coming from the electric utility, because there was a fairly substantial list of projects. But when I looked at the dollars, they seemed to be pretty close to equal. I think the key thing is, and I don't know if it's necessarily part of a strategic plan or just regular good operating norms, that we do need to have a regular update of the capital plan. I think we've done it in fits and starts, so that every year when we go into the budget season, we know what the big priorities are and the costs. And when we look at the money we're going to have, we're prepared to allocate the money to the proper projects.
When I was on the council, it was my idea to start a construction committee, but somehow I just didn't get onto the committee. But if it wasn't for me on the council, the North Street pump station, which we were allocated over $500,000 to fix, through my sources of people that are involved in the business, found out the contractor was not qualified. He never did a job of that scope, and he was dismissed. Now we got to start all over again with a new consultant. I believe that with all this construction going on, all that we should just maybe put everything together. We want to spend X amount of dollars for 1 year, 3 projects. Instead of doing one at a time and getting these little contractors, put all the contracts together, get one big contractor. The bigger the contractor, the better the contractor, and make sure everything is done according to our specs, and make sure we watch what's going on, and we get value for our dollar.
I'd actually like to point out that we've been able to contain costs here in Madison because a substantial amount of the work that's done has been done in-house by DPW, by the water, and by the electric utility. So we've been able to contain costs by working with our own employees.
Thank you. And I agree both with what Mr. Cerciolo said. He did a fantastic job with the North Street pump station. And also, as it pertains to doing things in-house, that was all part of the Construction Review Committee. What we did was we would get the plans for a design, and then we'd give it to the department heads to see what we could do internally to lower the cost of the project before we put it out to bid. So I'm glad we all think in a similar way, but these are things that may seem common sense, but we actually have to do it, and we started doing that a couple years ago.
Start driving, right?
What was that?
You're going to start driving, right?
No, I'm not. Well, I must apologize for coming late tonight. Some major problems at Penn Station, but it is what it is. I'm sorry. Well, let me say that living in Madison is really an incredible experience, and it's a wonderful town. We all know that. And I think it's really come to light when I've been walking around door to door for the last few weeks, it seemed like the last few months actually, that most people really have about the same comments time after time, and the comments are usually, I love living in Madison. They think it's fantastic. And then it's usually followed by, gee, I wish the taxes were lower. Not a surprise hearing that statement. And I say to them, you know, I feel the same on both counts. I'd love to continue to live in Madison forever, my children also, but I also know that lowering the taxes isn't quite so easy as we'd like to think. And you know, with 2 children going to school next year in college, I'd like to lower the taxes probably more than most people would. But I know that it doesn't come without compromise. And we also know that probably the same reasons why we love Madison are the same reasons why we also think the taxes are high, right? If we were to think that we would not have the kind of services that police, fire, and DPW provide to us, it would be a different community. Probably if we didn't have the kind of ball fields and all the kinds of sports teams that our kids play on, it would be 30 seconds, wow. It would be a different community and a different school system if we didn't pay for that, and a different downtown if we didn't pay for that. So what we have to really come to realize that there's a compromise in this town, and we have to collectively think about what that compromise is and collectively be creative about how are we going to make changes if we want to. And I have some ideas for that, but I think that will happen after the next 30 seconds, though. Thank you.
The next question is, are you happy with the current makeup of our borough administration, with a chief administrator and assistant administrator? How do their roles fit the needs of the borough? And Mr. Gertler, you have the honor of doing this
Okay.
first.
Great. Well, having met several times with Mr. Cody, I thought that he has been doing a fantastic job in this town. His knowledge of what's going on, when he explains the kinds of savings that he has made for us, I'm astounded at his grasp of everything that goes on in this town. I would not lose him, nor Jim either. I think the two of them do a fantastic job. I don't know what else to say other than I'm very pleased with their performance.
Thank you. Ms. Byrne?
I'll echo that. I've actually been working with Jim Burnett for a long time on various projects in town. I've been working with Ray Cody almost as long, and I think they both bring substantial value to Madison in terms of always looking out for the bottom line and making sure that Madison's best interests are reflected in their decisions and the decisions they make on behalf of the town.
Thank you. Mr. Rowe?
Tough spot. Yeah, I'm happy with the makeup. I've had the opportunity to work with both Ray and Jim as part of shared services, and also as we've negotiated with a variety of developers on the sale of the Green Village Road School. I think their expertise and dedication has been extremely helpful in both areas, and that's about as much as I can say.
Mr. Sosiawa?
That's all I can say.
They keep saying that, you know, Madison should be run like a business. I'm a businessman, just a small contractor, but the biggest thing for me to stop the bleeding in my business is overhead. A couple of years ago, when Jim got appointed as assistant, I was the only one who voted no, because there was nobody else in town who was going to get a raise. The cops, the police, the school, nobody was getting a raise. He was the only one got promoted and a raise, a $40,000 raise. Jim's doing a good job. Then, all of a sudden, a year later, the council decides that you don't need 2 people. And then they did what I thought was the wrong thing. Instead of putting Jim back where he was and keeping Ray, they went, and it was a big controversy. We all know that. Again, I'm just for overhead. I can't come, as a bricklayer, I can't come to your house to lay 100 brick and bring 3 laborers with me. You know what I mean? I just can't afford it. It's overhead. Overhead is the way to stop the bleeding. And that's what we got to do in Madison. That's why I believe the Board of Ed and the borough should get together. You could save a lot of money. You don't need a superintendent for public works. You don't need a superintendent for the school. Overhead. Overhead is the key.
Thank you. I believe that the people of Madison overwhelmingly support the current structure. As a servant of the people, I accept that. I would like to see, however, the Assistant Borough Administrator take a more active role in the financial management of our utilities. You know, between the electric and the water utility, we have a pretty good-sized business, and I believe that we should be much more proactive in the management of the utilities, and I would think that considering we have a borough administrator, assistant borough administrator, and a CFO, that he could certainly spend more time there, and that's where I would like to direct his efforts.
Next question. In 2012, we had a number of instances where many members of the public expressed displeasure with the decisions the Borough Council made. Do you believe there are adequate mechanisms for public input to the council? And if not, how would you improve communication between the public and the council? This question begins with Mr. Sosiello.
Well, when I go to meetings, and I'm going to make a motion tonight that you change this 2 minutes to 3 minutes, because I'm used to talking for 3 minutes, and it's kind of hard for fucking But you just got to let people, give their opinions and respect their opinions, and be a little more understanding with the people that come to meetings, and sort of just ask questions, and maybe we should give better answers and stuff, and follow up on them and see if, we come up with ideas, but sometimes we don't just get answers, and then we got to come to the next meeting. And the biggest thing, make sure, out of respect, like I promised when I get elected, I will be at my seat at the council meeting at 8 o'clock sharp. Sometimes you got to wait a half hour, 20 minutes. I mean, you tell people the meeting starts at 8, start the meeting at 8. And I promise I will be there 8 o'clock sharp, like I done when I was on for 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. We're kind of under the control of the state in terms of how we run our open public meetings. I think we can tweak it a little bit. I think that we should release more of the agenda, more of the data sooner than we do, so that people have a chance to actually study in some detail what will be presented at that night's meeting. And I would also shift around the way the questions are answered. I don't necessarily think it's fair to ask residents to wait until the very end, which can sometimes be a 2, 3, or even 4-hour meeting, before they get to ask open questions of the governing body. So, I think we could maybe move the question periods around a little bit.
I would actually, if I sit on council, first invite everybody to come to a Board of Ed meeting, because I think we do it a little bit more democratically. When we have presentations by members of the administration or outside people, we allow, after the board has had the opportunity to question them or make statements, the general public to also weigh in. I think it's a very good way for us to get feedback in real time instead of making people wait till the end of the meeting. In many cases, the people who've made the presentations are long gone. The presentations are no longer up on the board. So I think there's a better way to open it up. And again, I find that it helps in the dialogue. We don't have all the answers, and many people from the public raise good questions. And I think if you make it all more open, you'll also get more people to attend your meetings.
I think when an issue presents itself that concerns Madison, Madison turns out. I mean, I saw 12 or 13 people from Academy over the last 2 Borough Council meetings wait their turn to make sure that their concerns were heard. I agree with Mr. Catalanello. I think we can do a better job of letting people know what the Borough Council will be discussing that evening. We put things up on RoseNet, but I think we could use our library and use our senior center as spots to put those agenda items out for people to see. Because I think an informed constituency can best influence how the council ultimately makes their decisions.
I think it's unfair that the public doesn't get a chance to speak until basically at the end of discussion. By the time they make a statement, it's usually late at night. The council has pretty much made up their mind, and you see a lot of nods, and that's about all that they get. It's sort of nod service versus lip service. I think on the planning board, the public is asked if they have any questions or statements, they should be made first thing in the meeting, not towards the very end. And the reason why that's important is that, so therefore, the information that they ask or provide should be part of the information that the town council actually uses to make their choices, rather than at the end when it's a fait accompli.
What would you do to make the downtown more vibrant and appealing to retailers? This begins with Mr. Catanello.
First, I'd cut their electric rates, because that would result in lower rents, which means that they may be able to stay in business for a little bit longer. Pat and I have visited close to 2,000 houses this campaign season, and it's amazing how many people who have had businesses that had to close because they just couldn't afford the rent anymore. So I would do everything I could to lower that rent. The electric rate seems like a pretty good way to start. And, I just think we can do more along the lines of things to attract people, maybe even do pedestrian days where we limit the amount of cars that we allow in the downtown for certain hours. I know it's worked in major cities around the world. We also need to address the parking issue. I have previously submitted plans or requests to discuss the parking for downtown. It's yet to be taken up by council, but I think that's important.
I agree with Rob. I think, cutting electric rates would give an immediate financial impact to the landlords and also the tenants who are paying for their own electric. Freeing up some money helps them improve their business. I think we also have to continue to support the DDC and the Chamber of Commerce. I think both do a great job trying to attract people and keep people in downtown Madison. And I really am open in terms of what they would bring to the council that we could help them with, because I think it is going to be critical over the next several years as more and more some of the businesses tend to move to the internet.
Well, I've spent the last few years on the Downtown Development Commission promoting downtown, doing everything I can possibly do, short of taking a bus to Westfield and bringing people to Madison. There are some things that we can do to actually increase people shopping in Madison and also take a bite out of your electric utility. In Marlborough, New Jersey, they are piloting a program where you get a card, and the dollars that you spend downtown, you'll get a discount. Now, that discount won't come off of your bill. You'll still pay full price, but that discount will be applied to your electric bill. So we do two things. We increase people shopping downtown, and we take a bite out of the electric utility.
The downtown is probably our heart and soul in this community, and probably our houses are so valuable because of our downtown as well. I don't think we do enough for the downtown. While the downtown makes improvements, let's say on sidewalks or street lamps, I think we need to be more aggressive with it. We're playing real hardball retail with towns like the Summit and Morristown, and of course the Short Hills Mall. So if it requires incentives, even financial incentives, to attract businesses here, we need to attract more people in front of the stores. If the new stores come here and they're vibrant stores, it means that our current landlords will do much better as well, and the whole town will pick up. But I think the most important thing is to attract new businesses, exciting businesses, vibrant businesses, and make this a real exciting downtown. In the 16 years I've been here, it really is not as exciting as it was when I moved here. It's still a great downtown, but it really needs to pick up a bit more, though.
I've been in Madison all my life, and I'm in Madison almost every day, you know. I don't have to jump on a train. I'm just fortunate enough to work around this area. But talking to a lot of business people and being in business at one time, Madison, we have to make it more business friendly. What I mean by that is that when a store owner wants to do some renovation or a guy wants to open up a business, instead of having to go into a ton of money through the planning board, board of adjustments and everything, let's work with them. Let's help them. An example is right across the street on Park Avenue, that healthcare center. I got to know the guy pretty good. He said he was almost this close to telling Madison, forget about it. He was going to move his business to another town because of all the aggravation he had to go through with all these boards. So you have to make it more friendlier and help these people to do renovation and just don't go through the red tape meetings. And so, yes, we have to do something to keep the town. Let's help these business people, landlords, so they don't have to go through so much red tape.
So you have a couple of questions here about that involving volunteers. How would you, as a council member, include appointed volunteers in the committees and boards in which they serve in supporting borough decisions? Mr. Rowe, please.
Oh, I think Madison has a tremendous number of volunteers, both supporting the council and supporting the borough in general. I think when I was looking at Mr. Wolkowitz's strategic planning initiative, one of the things I recommended to him was he take a look at the 20 boards, councils, committees that the borough already has advising it about things. I think if we re-engage those people in the strategic planning process, they've already got the expertise that could help us. At a minimum, create subcommittees of those groups and ask additional people to join them. I think, you know, one of the questions we had at Bottle Hill Day this year was what make Madison great. It is the amount of people who are engaged in this community as volunteers, both for the borough, the Board of Ed, for the recreation, for seniors. They are the heart and soul of this community.
This building that we're sitting in right now is an example of Madison volunteers. The Madison Community House is supported by the Thursday Morning Club. And this building has been here serving the community from the 50s. But a few years ago, we realized that the roof was putting a lot of pressure on the sides of the walls, and, well, it was pretty much coming down on our heads. And so what we did was the Thursday Morning Club, a group of volunteers, instead of throwing their hands up in the air and saying, oh, well, nothing we can do about it, set out to raise $2.5 million to rebuild this building. And they did. In 3 years, they raised the money from the community, from grants, from the state, and without using a dime of government money, this building was rebuilt and opened up again to the public. And I think when we engage volunteers, when we ask people to come together and support opportunities like this in Madison, they respond with a resounding yes.
Well, I guess if there were two hearts and souls in Madison, the volunteers would be the other heart and soul to it. I'm sure the reason why I'm here and why everybody else is on this dais tonight is here because they've seen other volunteers do incredible work, and it sort of gives us that incentive and motivation to also do those same kinds of things. But I think that when it comes to a town council meeting, though, I don't know why those volunteers who are in charge of very important committees are not actually speaking on their own behalf for their committees. I'm not sure why the town council members themselves speak for those committees. I think really they should represent those committees. They should speak at least once a month to town council so the entire public really knows firsthand who's doing what and what they're actually doing.
Any of you remember the old Rose City Festival? I was the founder and the chairman of that for 14 years. I just love to bring people together. And, for example, at the Rose City Festival, I had over 24 organizations, including churches. I just know how to make things happen. You know, there's three kinds of people in the world. Those who watch things happen, those that don't know how to make it happen, and there's guys like me that know how to make it happen. So I believe in getting together. I love that, and Madison's a great town, and like I said, that's an example how I know how to bring things together. You gotta listen to the people, you gotta make a decision. Sometimes if you go to the right, the people on the left are mad. You just gotta do what's right for the people, and that's what I'm good at.
Thank you. You know, we have a high-class problem in Madison in that we have so many volunteers, and we get tremendous value from it. I doubt, and you know, anyone sitting here in this audience couldn't name a dozen people they know that volunteer in some way, shape, or form for the borough. I think it's important that we cast a wide net, that we encourage as many volunteers as possible, as much input as possible. I would hope that with the strategic plan that's we're about to embark on, we would make use of town hall meetings as opposed to smaller groups. And, you know, just again, from the example of the Construction Review Committee, we have local builders, we have executives from major Fortune 10 companies in town. There's a lot of expertise in this town. We just need to harness it. We need to get the word out, and we need to cast a wide net. Thank you.
The next question that's come in, a couple of people have asked, how do you see sustainable New Jersey and sustainability issues in general fitting in the future plans of the borough?
Well, I'm very familiar with Sustainable New Jersey, having worked on the grant application that resulted in Madison being awarded a silver Sustainable New Jersey. A lot of people think is environmental, but sustainability is actually much broader than that. Sustainability refers to a community's ability to thrive economically, environmentally, socially, educationally. And I think so sustainability, very important to Madison, and I think Madison is on the right track as exemplified by our silver status.
I think if you look at it in a sort of holistic framework, and you look at what is how do you improve the health of a community, you'd have to sort of look at what sustainability is. When you look at the kinds of maybe materials that we would be using in our construction, or the kinds of gasoline or not gasoline in our public vehicles, or the way that we either put on or don't put on certain kinds of nutrients for our soil that might be toxic to our children. And if you look at all of those things and you decide, let's look at that as the health of the community and not do that. Let's look at bicycle lanes. Let's encourage as much sort of tree growth and landscape growth as we can. Then overall you'll see the entire health of the community grow incrementally, but it will be improved. And I think that's what we need to always focus on.
Thank you. Yeah, Madison has changed. The whole country's changed. Years ago, we had like a spirit in Madison. Cops were on the corner, walking people across the street. Always a cop in front of Burnet's building. People just walking around now with their blackberries. They're just, nobody's talking. But what we have to do is when we do projects, we got to do them right. And like I said, for example, the pavers. Just what Jeff said, we talked about the pavers. It was the wrong paver in the center of town. It's fading. It's a cheap paver. We spending all this money. You got to use the best product. Just for example, you take the front of the bank across from the diner. They use a different paver than the paver that's there. Then you go to Walgreens there. They got a different paver. Now the guy next to him where they're renting cars, he's got a different paver. I mean, it's got to be better planning. Keep the Madison the sharp town it is, and when we do something, let's do it right with a good plan.
Thank you. I think that Maureen and Jeff have pretty much said it all. I would add that anything that makes this a more attractive place, for young families and instills a sense of community, while at the same time respecting things like property rights. I'm in favor of. I think that there's still much more we can do. I still have the College of Engineering at Villanova University willing to come up here and build us a biodiesel plant. I would hope that we would look into that, regardless of the outcome of the election, for our town vehicles. It'll save money. It's better for the environment. There's a lot we can do as long as we focus on the community and the long-term health and happiness and attractiveness of Madison. I support it.
I agree with everything everyone said. One other thing I was thinking about was the fact that with the change in the electric rates coming up, it will give us some room. In the past, we've been reluctant to encourage people to use solar by providing them with the same rate that when they produce the electricity as when they purchase it from us. I think we now have an opportunity to possibly look further into that and possibly change our rate structure so that we could encourage that. And I would also encourage the council to talk to the Board of Education as they decide what to do with some of the money from GVR about possibly putting solar on the roof at the high school. I think it's something that could help us in the hottest days of the summer when we pay a fairly significant demand charge, and the use of electricity by the Board of Education is relatively low.
The next question really has to do with the budget. And it's kind of, I'll try and make it short and sweet. How important is it that Madison pass a municipal budget before the state mandated deadline? And also part of the budget questions, how will you ensure the continuation of services to residents while taking into consideration the costs associated with them? Mr. Gertler, would you start that?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
That's a lot of questions for 1 minute, I got to tell you.
There's two parts. It's budget, okay? How important do you think it is that Madison pass a municipal budget before the state mandated deadline? And in line with budget, how will you ensure that the continuation of services while taking into consideration the costs associated with it?
I'm not sure that I know why, about the state mandate, but I would say that it's important that we have a budget that works, and the sooner we get it, the better it is. So I would say, how do we get to a qualified budget quickly? And that would be to make sure we have a game plan in place and have it be reconciled with the amount of revenues that we're going to be receiving in the town. How do we keep our services ongoing for the community? By doing just that. We reconcile those two things. It's not rocket science, I don't think. It's not necessarily easy to do it, but we need to understand that there are considerations and there's a fair balance that has to be made. And we collectively, as a group, need to come to terms with that, and we need to do that every year.
Deadlines are usually there for a purpose, as Jeff said, developing the budget sooner rather than later is always a good idea. As far as services, we here in Madison have become used to a very high level of services. Our leaves are picked up for us, our garbage is collected, we put our recycling out, somebody comes to get it. All of those things cost money. So we have to be attuned to the services that people have come to count on, but also be cognizant that they come with a price tag.
Yeah, I'm painfully familiar with state deadlines on budgets. As the finance chair for the Board of Ed, I've had to deal with that 9 times, including in 2010 when the state gave us 1 week to figure out how to cut $1.7 million out of our budget. I think it's critical that we get it done on time. If nothing else, it says to people that we're serious about it and we have it under control. It's challenging. People kind of come to you because they typically want more of services, but when you talk to people on the side, they really want you to also cut taxes. They're kind of in conflict with one another. The key is striking the right balance, and right now the biggest challenge is actually going to be trying to continue to deliver the services that we've enjoyed under the state 2% cap.
Thank you. We have the state deadline. If the budget isn't done by then, I believe there's some ramifications. I think it's important that we start the budget process earlier, as opposed to waiting until, January, February, even March. And I think the sooner we start the process, the more debate we have, the better it is and the better chance there is we can get a budget that'll pass. As it pertains to services, I think it's important that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past, where we relied on uncertain forms of funding to provide services. I think that we have to be truthful with our residents. We cannot kick the can down the road, and we must be willing to make hard decisions. And if that means, that we have to come out and potentially cut some services, then it has to be discussed and done. It's not pleasant, but it's something we need to look into, and we can't blow up the operating budget.
Thank you. That's not my expertise. I'm in construction, like I tell you, but all we have to do, we got people on the payroll in the borough now that should guide us on how we should handle everything. So, I just surround myself with people that know how to do things like that. Again, like I said, the key is overhead. You make sure don't cut the services, cut maybe some of the overhead. Don't fire anybody, but maybe we can have people do a little more. And but that's the key, is overhead, and get the right people that understand how to do things with the budget, and they'll guide us.
What is your feeling about creating a redevelopment zone for the Green Village Road School? And will it benefit or burden the town? Mr. Cicillo.
Well, first of all, the money's good. We're supposed to get like, what, $11 million for it? If it's, again, we have people that's going to help us with this, get the professional developer. We got to have the right building up there, and it's got to be a benefit to the town. And I think with the experts we got going, I think it's going to be okay. And whatever they do, I just hope they do the right thing. And I'm going to make sure that I'm happy what they're doing, because I know what the right thing is.
Thank you. I think it's a good idea. I think it will attract new residents. It will attract new business, and it will help to make Madison a more vibrant place. It's a shame we're losing some of the ball fields, but I think I think there's adequate facilities to go around. So I have nothing but faith that the people working on it will come up with the proper plan, and it will be, again, like I said in my opening statement, I believe our best days are ahead, and I think it could be a very important part of that, delivering that.
Well, it's actually a moot point. It's already been done. With the help of Mr. Gertler and the planning board, the Board of Education and the borough worked to rezone the property and then turn it into a redevelopment zone. We've been working in collaboration with the borough administration and the Borough Council. I think we're about this close, Bob, to selling the property or designating somebody. And I think one of the attractions for the Board of Ed was the fact that, and I think the council too, if we had just auctioned the property off, it would have just gone to somebody who came up with the biggest check on that date. What we've been able to do is instead really interview developers, see what their plans are, make sure they're in conformity with what the zoning board, the planning board wanted to see developed there, which would be in the best interest of the district and the community. So I think it's going to be a win-win. I'm just crossing my fingers that we can get it done shortly, and I'm going to be very happy when the property is sold. It's been a 8-year enterprise, and several people in this room have been along for the ride the whole way. Thank you.
The development of the Green Village Road School site is going to be the largest development Madison sees for a long time. And I trust that in the 8-year, and I'm going to use the word odyssey, that has been the discussion of what is going to happen to that property, that the planning board and the council and the Board of Education have put their best minds to it. And so whatever does come up is going to benefit Madison without putting any undue stress on our services or on the Board of Education.
So as one of four members who looked at the zoning of Green Village Road School and altered it so that we could maximize the potential of the property, it was important to us that we had a fair balance what the land would become, that it wouldn't just become a developer's delight so that it would be maximization of units or of asphalt, but we tried to encourage them to have sustainable construction, underground parking, a cultural center, and all of those would be incentives for them to have more units, but at least add those kinds of benefits to the community. We certainly hope that the eventual designated developer takes advantage of those opportunities, and that this particular space is not just, again, a space for developers to make money, but a place that in Madison, we can all use it collectively, and it's actually something that we can be proud of for all the years to come.
You know, and one follow-on item to Mr. Cerciello's point, I think that the borough has worked very hard to make sure that not only a good developer is picked, but also that there's language in place, that there will be language in place to make sure that the project gets executed properly and that the community sees a real benefit from it. So I think it's been a great partnership. I've been very happy with everybody we've worked with, and look forward to something really nice going up there in the next several years.
I have one last question, and then we'll have your closing statements. And this sort of combines a series of questions that have been received. You're running for a 3-year term. What is your vision for Madison 3 years down the road, and what unique contribution would you bring to this vision? And this one begins with Mr. Catalanello.
Well, aren't I lucky? I believe the best days of Madison are ahead of us. I believe that we really have turned the corner on the fiscal side, and I believe we have the right team in place to make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. I believe that a lot of the programs that we started, particularly things like the community gardens, Sustainable New Jersey, will really help to make us just an attractive place to raise a family. And to me, that's the most important thing. I believe that I have skills to help, with on the financial side. I have great connections in terms of alternate energy. Not only did I did my design thesis in high efficiency solar cell design, I have connections with people who will help us build out some alternate energy facilities. But this is how we have to move in this way.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think there's 3 areas that I really could contribute over the next several years. Budgeting, capital planning, and also really long-term planning for the recreation department. I think as you look at each, they require some significant thought. We need to get through the next budget season, but I think we also need to do some long-range planning, as Mr. Wolkowitz has suggested, to make sure that we have a game plan going forward. We don't kind of do budgeting year by year. We don't do capital budgeting year by year. And I've worked on those efforts both in my private life and also for the Board of Education the last several years. In terms of recreation, I've been talking to some of the people in the recreation department lately, recreation groups rather, and even with the space coming online at the MRC, we know we're going to be losing space at GVR. There's some opportunities at Bailey Ella that we still need to recognize. We're still going to need to work with everybody to make sure that we're covering all their needs. We're prepared for any additional expansion. We need to sort of understand where it's all going. It's something we had discussed on the Recreation Committee 3 years ago when I was the Board of Ed rep. But I think we need to really work on that so we have a solid plan going forward.
In my architectural practice, I deal with some fairly sizable projects on a regular basis. And I think what I could bring to the town council dramatically is understanding particularly the larger scale projects and of course the smaller scale projects.
Not only did I did my design thesis in high efficiency solar cell design, I have connections with people who will help us build out some alternate energy facilities, but this is how we have to move in this way. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think there's three areas that I really could contribute over the next several years. Budgeting, capital planning, and also really long-term planning for the recreation department. I think as you look at each, they require some significant thought. We need to get through the next budget season, but I think we also need to do some long-range planning, as Mr. Wolkowitz has suggested, to make sure that we have a game plan going forward. We don't kind of do budgeting year by year. We don't do capital budgeting year by year. And I've worked on those efforts both in my private life and also for the Board of Education the last several years. In terms of recreation, I've been talking to some of the people in the recreation department lately, recreation groups rather, and even with the space coming online at the MRC, we know we're going to be losing space at GVR. There's some opportunities at Bailey Ella that we still need to recognize. We're still going to need to work with everybody to make sure that we're covering all their needs. We're prepared for any additional expansion. We need to sort of understand where it's all going. It's something we had discussed on the Recreation Committee 3 years ago when I was the Board of Ed rep, but I think we need to really work on that so we have a solid plan going forward.
In my architectural practice, I deal with some fairly sizable projects on a regular basis. And I think what I could bring to the town council dramatically is understanding particularly the larger scale projects and of course the smaller scale projects. Basically how they are to be managed, how are they to be scheduled, what are the best ways to reap the most benefit from them. So for example, with Green Village Road School, that's clearly going to be something that I hope I could play an instrumental part going forward. I know that the Town Council and Board of Ed has done a tremendous amount of work already. But my skills in that area, I think, are very important. Additionally, though, I think that what I probably do best is make decisions very well. I think when you make a decision, you have to have as many facts as you can, but it's not a matter of just having all the facts, but it's a matter of knowing what to do with them. I think I've always been a very rational person, a compassionate person, and sort of knows how to put them together into something that would ultimately be a decision that people could understand and live with quite comfortably.
In my time here in Madison, I have served as a volunteer. So I have seen firsthand what happens when you get a large number of people excited about a project. And I think right now, here in Madison, as exemplified by the number of people here in this room, we have a lot of people who are excited and who want to be involved in what happens to Madison over the next couple of years. So I would like to think that on council, I would be able to bring those people into the decision-making. Let their voices be heard. Let them be part of the process. Make Madison even better than it is today.
Dave, Bob, I was first on the beginning, so now I'm last, so.
Yeah. Congratulations.
But what we have to do is, the bottom line is there's 6 people on the council. This Tuesday, the November 5th, you got to vote for 2. There's enough, in my opinion. I have a lot of common sense, and I have a lot of street sense. There's 2 people you have to vote for, and there's 2 people that could contribute to the council. Number one, me, because of my construction experience. I'm not a money guy, I'm a construction guy. I know what's right and wrong. And you got to vote for a second person. I'm voting for Jeff. So you got 2, and then now you have
2 votes now for me.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you who the second vote is. No, but my wife is a Republican. She may not vote for me.
And that's yeah. I didn't talk for about.
You still have your final statement.
But before the candidates have their final word, I think the audience needs to give them a big round of applause. One of the great joys I have as a moderator in local politics is the number of people who volunteer their time.
You're too kind.
We may all go home and have our dinner or whatever, and they're off at a meeting until midnight. And they're at a meeting representing us. So congratulations to all of you for running. And with that, I would say let's move on to the closing statements, which are 2-minute statements. Mr. Gertler, you have the first closing statement.
Thanks. Well, firstly, thank you so much for letting us all participate. And I think whoever you do select as council members, any of the 5 of us, I think you'll all have a good choice in us as well. It's interesting. When I think that what I found is probably running for town council is similar to what I do in my own business, which is often going after work to sustain my practice. And at an interview, there's always one very simple question asked that I kind of love and hate the question. That is, so what makes you different than other architects? Or in this case, why should I vote for you? Why are you different than any other person? And the difficulty is that I'm really unable to answer that question accurately, because the real answer is you would vote for somebody or hire somebody because you trust them. It's impossible to trust somebody that A, you don't know, or B, you haven't worked with before. So what I would ask all of you is that people that you think I know, that ask them about the way that I've conducted myself in either my business or on the various committees, and I think you'll understand who I am. I've said to my children for many years, so much so that they've gotten sick of it, of course, is that I say, talk is cheap and actions speak louder than words. I think if you don't look at people for what they've done, so ignore what the Patch has said, ignore what the Eagle has said, the alternate press. It's all good sort of writing that we put in there, but the fact of the matter is it's only the written word. You have to trust us on what we've done and what we've accomplished and how we've treated our fellow neighbors in Madison. So I would say, please look at any of us in that context.
Ms. Byrne.
In closing, I want to focus on 2 of the most important decisions the borough faces and how successful outcomes can be achieved by ensuring that the principles I outlined at the start of this evening are deployed. In the near future, decisions have to be made regarding Green Village Road School and Giralda Farms. These decisions create huge opportunities to engage the public in a process that will produce successful outcomes. The Downtown Development Commission, of which I am proud to be a member, has been innovative and tireless in its efforts to maintain the prosperity and appeal of our downtown. But more can be done through partnerships with business leaders and our communities to grow our rateable basis. These critical land use decisions are a unique opportunity to show how an open and transparent process can ensure that everyone involved in producing sustainable redevelopment in line with the borough's needs. Throughout my years volunteering in Madison, I have witnessed and been a part of some amazing success stories. The Madison Education Foundation is one example of how one small effort to support the high school mushroomed into a huge borough-wide educational success as people built something that became bigger than themselves. And finally, there's Olga Soriano and Bernie Grohl and the members of the Thursday Morning Club. Their refusal to say no, their creative ideas, and their dedication to work and neighborhoods produced an amazing $2.5 million in donations in this building. When we all pull together, great things happen. I value the tradition of cooperation, compassion, and volunteerism. The whole community can benefit from these examples. I would like to continue to be a part of this process and serve the entire community on the Borough Council, building on the current council's successes while always putting Madison first.
Thank you. Mr. Catalano.
Was I third?
I'm sorry, Mr. Rowe.
Again, I'd like to thank everyone who came out tonight to hear us discuss the important issues facing Madison, the League for running this forum, and the Community House for hosting us. Hopefully, we've been able to give you some additional information about our plan for the next 3 years. Rob and I have been talking to residents ever since we announced at the beginning of April that we'd be competing for 2 spots on the Republican ticket. We've had the opportunity to meet hundreds of people as we walk Madison in the spring, late summer, and this fall. We want to thank everyone who took the time to ask us about the important issues and to offer us their opinions on how Madison was doing and what we could do to make it a better place. Our campaign has reflected our positive view of the future and how we can utilize our experience and our passion to serve to make Madison a more affordable and desirable place for our families. It's been an honor and pleasure to be one of your representatives on the Madison Board of Education. And I hope when you look at the work I've done there, as well as the plans Rob and I have laid out for the next 3 years, you'll reward us with your votes on Election Day. Please be sure to vote on November 5th, and I ask you to please vote for the team of Catalanello Monroe. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for attending tonight's Spirit Debate, and thank you to the League for organizing it. It has been a great campaign for Pat and me. We have personally visited close to 2,000 homes, and we've really enjoyed our outreach to the wonderful people of Madison. Among other things, I now know who has the best fig tree in Madison, and there are plenty of fig trees, the best apple trees, and where to go for homemade bread. Next Tuesday, you'll all step into a booth and press the button to cast your votes for 2 of us for the Borough Council. When making your decision, please consider that in my second term, I'll focus on these priorities. Increase transparency in government, especially in our utilities. I will hold the line on taxes. I believe in fostering public-private partnerships for open space projects. I believe in a thoughtful, collaborative approach to recreation. I believe in expansion of the community gardens. I believe in a constructive dialogue with borough employees, especially during contract negotiations. I especially believe in continued focus on repairing our infrastructure, roads and sewers, the key, and I believe in lower electric rates. When you think of my first term, please think of my contribution when your kids are playing on the fields, safe fields that can be used in all weather. When you're tending your community garden plot, or when you turn your lights on and they work even in a storm. Think of me when potholes are filled and your basements no longer flood because in a heavy rainstorm we had poor drainage. I hope you don't think of me when you flush, but I guarantee if the pump stations were left to rot in the condition we found them when I came to office, you'd be cursing me right now. I respectfully ask for your vote for the ticket of Catalanello and Rowe on Tuesday. Thank you all, and have a good evening.
Mr. Cerciolo?
Madison's really changed, and I believe we should change a lot of the ways we do business. My pledge as an independent candidate is to work with all residents to respect all opinions. I will do what's best for our town. My experience and accomplishments are visibly around Madison. Here's just a couple of them. When I was on council, with the help of Mr. Cody, we sent 3 letters to the New Jersey Transit about the trestle and about the bridge on Elm Street. They're fixed. Then after they fixed it, the posts on the top were good, but we sent another letter to power wash it, and they power washed it. So we made things happen. Also, again, if it wasn't for people that I know in the business, the pump station on North Street would have been a disaster. We would have spent over $500,000, and we had the wrong contractor. I made sure that that didn't happen. The post office, with the help of Rady Cody, we sent 3 letters to our Congressman, Romney. Post office, the new facelift, new windows, got it painted. I make things happen. When I return to the council, I will support all the effort of making it better for the citizens of Madison. We're doing a lot for the youth, which is good, but we got to worry about the citizens. I will bring a common sense and street sense to the council. I will be accountable and available to all your issues and your concerns. I will return all phone calls, promise to meet at 8 o'clock sharp at the council meetings. I'm committed to do just what I said, and I pledge to you all to be responsible for what I do. I'll be responsible for what I feel to do, and for what I say, I will be responsible. Once again, I'd like to thank the Women League of Voters, and I'm asking you to vote for me and Jeff on November 5th Thank you, thank the Women League of Voters, and thank you all for coming today.
Importantly, just to get to know you, your friends, bring them with you, to a ride.
I'm not voting for you, Jeff. I don't expect you to vote for me.
Still have another year together. Oh, thank you so much.
Pat, very good.
Good luck, Sam. Even though you didn't score.
I thought,